Emily Foster always considered herself an ordinary woman. At 32, she worked as a librarian in the small town of Riverview, Michigan. Her husband Brad, whom she had married 5 years ago, was an ambitious sales manager at a regional technology company. Their life flowed steadily and predictably until April 2022, when Emily received a letter from a notary. The letter contained shocking news. Her long-deceased grandmother, whom the family rarely spoke about, had left Emily an inheritance. Not just some family heirlooms, but a real fortune, an old mansion on the lakeshore and shares in a company founded by her great-grandfather. According to preliminary estimates, the inheritance was worth more than $4 million. When Emily told Brad about it, he seemed surprised but not too interested. "Do whatever you want with that house, dear," he said casually, returning to watching the basketball game. This reaction reassured Emily Brad loved her, not her potential money. The following week, she took vacation time and went to inspect the mansion. The majestic Victorian building looked abandoned but had retained its elegance. Inside, Emily discovered antique furniture, a collection of paintings, and most surprisingly, a locked office with documents related to Harper Pharmaceuticals, named after her maiden name. As Emily explored the dusty rooms of the mansion, memories of rare childhood visits to her grandmother flooded back. The stern old woman had always seemed distant, disapproving of Emily's mother's marriage. Now, standing in what was once her grandmother's bedroom, Emily wondered why she had been chosen as the heir, bypassing other relatives. A faded photograph on the nightstand caught her attention, her grandmother as a young woman standing proudly in front of the newly built pharmaceutical laboratory. The resemblance between them was striking, explaining perhaps why the old woman had seen something of herself in her granddaughter. The mansion held other secrets too. In the attic, Emily found journals dating back to the 1930s, chronicling her great-grandfather's pharmaceutical innovations. He had developed treatments for ailments that modern medicine was only now beginning to understand. More importantly, she discovered a safe hidden behind a painting in the study. Unable to open it, Emily took photos of everything she found and reluctantly headed home, promising herself to return soon. Upon returning home, Emily noticed subtle changes in Brad's behavior. He began showing unusual interest in her inheritance, asking about property details, offering help with managing the shares. A phone call from Michael Kingsley, her grandmother's family attorney, clarified the situation. Harper Pharmaceuticals stocks were worth much more than initially thought. The company was developing a promising treatment for a rare disease, and its value was now estimated in the tens of millions. Emily barely had time to grasp the scale of her wealth before Brad completely changed. He left his job, started building grand plans to invest her money, and talked about moving to a luxurious house in a prestigious neighborhood. His friends suddenly became frequent guests in their home, and conversations invariably revolved around the opportunities that Emily's inheritance offered. Late one evening in her home office, Emily discovered an open tab on Brad's computer with information about Michigan state laws regarding spousal inheritance rights. He had even consulted with a divorce attorney. She quietly closed the laptop, not wanting to believe the worst, but doubts had already taken root in her heart. The changes became more pronounced as days passed. Brad's wardrobe transformed from department store basics to designer labels. His modest car was traded for a sleek sports model that cost more than their annual income. When Emily questioned these expenses, Brad waved off her concerns, insisting that with her new wealth they should live accordingly. The modest, hard-working man she had married seemed to be vanishing before her eyes, replaced by someone obsessed with status and appearances. At night, Emily would often find Brad awake, scrolling through luxury real estate listings or researching investment opportunities. Their conversations, once filled with shared dreams of traveling someday or starting a family, now centered exclusively on money, how to spend it, invest it, leverage it for more. Brad's eyes gleamed with an intensity that made Emily uncomfortable, as if her inheritance had awakened something predatory in him. Over the following month, Emily noticed more alarming signals. Brad insisted on opening a joint account to manage the inheritance. He introduced her to a reliable financial consultant who turned out to be his old university friend with a questionable reputation. Expensive items appeared in their home, purchased by Brad without discussion: a new sports car, designer clothes, collectible watches. One evening, returning home earlier than usual, Emily overheard Brad on the phone. He was discussing with someone a plan to sell her ancestors' company shares and get rid of the ballast. That's what he called the historic mansion. When he noticed her presence, he quickly ended the conversation and tried to distract her attention by showing brochures of elite resorts for their well-deserved vacation. The next morning, Emily found a draft email on their shared tablet. Brad had been corresponding with a real estate agent about the potential sale of the mansion, describing it as an old dump needing to be torn down for development. Her heart sank reading those words. The mansion wasn't just property, it was her family's legacy, a physical connection to ancestors she barely knew. Brad had never even visited it, yet he was planning to destroy it for quick profit. Emily decided to consult with Michael Kingsley. The family attorney confirmed her fears. Brad had no legal rights to inheritance received after marriage, but could gain access through joint accounts or powers of attorney. Michael advised Emily to be careful and offered to introduce her to a trusted financial advisor, Rachel Morgan. In the days that followed, Emily maintained a facade of normalcy while secretly documenting Brad's behavior. She recorded conversations where he pressured her to sign documents. She photographed the expensive purchases appearing in their home. She even installed a small camera in their living room after finding draft contracts for the mansion's sale hidden in Brad's golf bag. Each new discovery felt like another nail in the coffin of their marriage, but Emily needed evidence before confronting him. One night, Brad invited Emily's parents for dinner, something he rarely initiated. Throughout the evening, he charmed them with stories about investment opportunities and hinted at plans for the inheritance that would benefit the whole family. After her parents left, Emily found herself questioning if she was being paranoid. Maybe Brad was just excited about their sudden change in fortune, not plotting against her. This doubt kept her silent even as the evidence mounted. In Rachel Morgan's hands, Emily's inheritance took on new significance. It turned out that in addition to the mansion and shares, there were patents for pharmaceutical formulas developed by her great-grandfather that still generated income. Rachel helped Emily create a trust to protect her assets and advised her not to sign any documents offered by her husband. Emily learned that Harper Pharmaceuticals, while small compared to industry giants, held patents for specialized treatments that larger companies relied on. The company's research division was developing a breakthrough therapy for a rare genetic disorder, with clinical trials showing promising results. If approved, this treatment could transform the company from valuable to priceless. No wonder Brad's interest had intensified. He had somehow discovered what Emily herself was just learning. Returning home after meeting with Rachel, Emily found Brad with suitcases in the hallway. He announced a spontaneous trip to the Caribbean, tickets already purchased, departure tomorrow. He had also prepared a few simple documents for her signature, a power of attorney for managing her finances, and permission to sell the mansion. Citing fatigue and the need to prepare for the trip, Emily postponed the signing. That night, she checked Brad's phone and discovered correspondence with an unknown woman. The messages revealed a shocking truth: Brad was having an affair, and together with his lover, they planned to gain control of Emily's money and then disappear. "Just a couple more weeks of pretending and we'll be free with millions," Brad wrote in one message. The woman, Vanessa, worked at the same company as Brad. In their messages, they mocked Emily's naivety and planned their future together with her money. Brad had already begun moving small amounts to a separate account, testing if Emily would notice. They discussed which tropical country would be best to settle in after the big transfer, somewhere without extradition treaties with the United States. Emily felt physically ill reading their calculated betrayal. Instead of panicking, Emily decided to act strategically. She pretended to know nothing and agreed to the vacation. Before leaving, she secretly met with Michael and Rachel to develop a plan. They advised her to record all conversations with Brad and gather evidence of his intentions. The Caribbean resort was everything Brad had promised: luxurious, exclusive, isolated. Perfect for romance, but also perfect for pressuring someone far from their support network. Every meal, every sunset walk became an opportunity for Brad to bring up their financial future. He spoke of investments requiring immediate action, opportunities that couldn't wait, always ending with documents needing her signature. Emily pretended to be hesitant but interested, asking questions that revealed Brad's limited understanding of the assets he so eagerly wanted to control. She recorded every conversation on her phone, hiding it in her beach bag or pocket. At night, she sent the recordings to Rachel and Michael, building her case methodically while maintaining her facade of loving wife. In the luxurious Caribbean hotel, Brad became increasingly insistent. He organized a romantic dinner, after which he again presented documents for signature, insisting it was just a formality. Emily signed the papers, but not those prepared by Brad. Rachel had secretly replaced them with identical-looking but legally empty forms. Back in their room, Emily faced the unexpected. Brad was packing his things, claiming he had an urgent business call in New York. He assured that he would return in 2 days. Emily knew the truth. He planned to meet his mistress and begin the process of withdrawing funds using Emily's forged signatures. After Brad left, Emily contacted the hotel management and local police. With Michael Kingsley joining via video call, she presented evidence of attempted fraud. The forged documents recorded conversations where Brad detailed his plans and messages with his mistress discussing how to liquidate Emily's assets. A formal investigation was launched immediately. Meanwhile, in New York, Brad attempted to access Emily's accounts using the powers of attorney he thought she had signed. When the transactions were flagged as suspicious and blocked, he called Emily in a rage, dropping all pretense of affection. His threats and demands, captured clearly on the recorded call, became the final piece of evidence against him. When Brad returned to Michigan, he was met with not just an unpleasant surprise, but completely ruined plans. At the airport, he was greeted not only by Emily but also by detectives hired by Michael. By attempting to access Emily's accounts using fake documents, Brad had committed a criminal offense. The evidence was irrefutable: recorded conversations, intercepted messages, witness testimonies about how Brad tried to defraud financial institutions. Faced with the prospect of imprisonment, he agreed to a quick divorce with minimal demands. Brad's affair partner Vanessa disappeared once it became clear there would be no windfall. His friends, once eager participants in plans to spend Emily's fortune, denied any knowledge of his schemes. His reputation in ruins and facing potential criminal charges, Brad agreed to Emily's divorce terms without contest. He would leave with only what he had brought into the marriage, which amounted to very little. In the fall of 2023, a year after receiving her inheritance, Emily stood on the porch of her grandmother's restored Victorian mansion. She had transformed it into a cultural center with a library and space for local artists. She sold part of the company's shares, investing in research on rare diseases, and the remaining assets provided her with a comfortable life. The mansion's renovation had revealed even more family secrets. Behind a wall in the main study, workers discovered a hidden room containing original research journals and formula notes from her great-grandfather. These documents, when verified by modern pharmaceutical researchers, confirmed that he had been decades ahead of his time. Several of his unpatented formulas showed promise for treating conditions that still challenged modern medicine. The discovery made headlines in scientific journals, bringing attention to Harper Pharmaceuticals and its forgotten founder. Pharmaceutical giants that had previously dismissed the small company now approached with partnership offers. Emily, armed with knowledge from countless hours studying her family's business and guided by Rachel's expertise, negotiated deals that maintained the company's independence while expanding its research capabilities. During this time, Brad's legal troubles mounted. The financial institutions he had attempted to defraud pressed charges, leading to a highly publicized trial. Emily was called to testify, facing her ex-husband across the courtroom for the first time since their divorce. Brad looked diminished somehow, his designer clothes replaced by an ill-fitting suit, his confident smile now a nervous grimace. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away, unable to face the woman whose life he had tried to steal. Emily's testimony was calm and factual, her voice never wavering as she detailed Brad's elaborate scheme. The evidence was overwhelming. Recorded conversations, forged documents, bank records showing his attempts to transfer her funds, and testimony from Vanessa, who had turned state's witness in exchange for immunity. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. Brad was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud and attempted embezzlement. As he was led away in handcuffs, Emily felt no satisfaction, only a profound sadness for what could have been. The ambitious man she had once loved had destroyed himself through greed. That evening, she visited her grandmother's grave for the first time, placing flowers and whispering a thank you, not for the money but for the strength she had discovered within herself because of this ordeal. Emily established the Harper Foundation, dedicated to funding medical research and providing assistance to patients with rare diseases. The foundation's board included Rachel Morgan, who had become a trusted friend, and surprisingly, Emily's former mother-in-law, who had reached out after the divorce to express her shame at her son's actions and offer her expertise as a retired nurse. "I failed as a mother," Brad's mother had confessed during their first awkward meeting. "I always gave him everything he wanted, never taught him the value of earning something." Her insights proved valuable to the foundation, especially in programs aimed at supporting patients' families. Through this unexpected alliance, Emily gained not just a board member but a surrogate mother figure who understood loss and redemption. The foundation's first major project reflected Emily's own journey. They purchased a struggling community library in Riverview, renovating it and establishing a scholarship program for aspiring librarians. Emily never forgot her roots, frequently returning to her former workplace to read to children during Saturday story hours. Her former colleagues marveled at how little fame and fortune had changed her fundamental nature. She remained thoughtful, generous, and passionately devoted to books and learning. Harper Pharmaceuticals' breakthrough drug for the rare genetic disorder finally received FDA approval in early 2024. The treatment, which Emily insisted be named after her grandmother, would change the lives of thousands of patients worldwide. More importantly, Emily negotiated a pricing structure that made the medication accessible to those who needed it most, regardless of their financial situation, a revolutionary approach in an industry known for prohibitive pricing. "Your great-grandfather would be proud," Michael Kingsley told her at the launch event. "He founded this company not just to make money but to heal people. You've returned it to its original purpose." Some of Brad's former friends attempted to reconnect with Emily after her business success made national news. The same people who had eagerly participated in plans to spend her fortune now sent congratulatory messages and invitations to exclusive events. Emily responded politely but maintained her distance, having learned the value of genuine relationships over superficial connections. The last news about Brad came from a small town in Florida where he was released after serving his sentence and found work as a used car salesman. His lover Vanessa had long since moved on, marrying a local businessman shortly after testifying against Brad. According to mutual acquaintances, Brad occasionally mentioned Emily, claiming she had overreacted to his business proposals. Few believed his revised version of events, and fewer still were willing to associate with a convicted felon whose schemes had been so thoroughly exposed. Emily received a letter from him once, years after the divorce. In it, Brad attempted to justify his actions, claiming he had only wanted to protect and grow her inheritance. The letter ended with a request for financial assistance to get back on his feet. Emily donated the amount he asked for to a prison education program instead, then put the letter away in a box of mementos from that chapter of her life. She felt no anger anymore, only pity for a man who had never understood that some things, trust, integrity, love, were worth more than any inheritance. On the 5th anniversary of discovering her grandmother's bequest, Emily hosted a gala at the mansion to celebrate the Harper Foundation's achievements. The event brought together researchers, patients, community members, and supporters who had contributed to their mission. The once neglected Victorian house glowed with light and laughter, its rooms filled with people dedicated to making a difference. During the evening, Emily slipped away from the crowds to her grandmother's study, now preserved as a museum showcasing the Harper family's contributions to medicine. She stood before her grandmother's portrait, studying the stern face that concealed a visionary mind. "I understand you now," Emily whispered to the painting. "You weren't just leaving me money. You were leaving me a purpose." Sitting by the lake near the mansion after the gala, Emily realized an important lesson. Sometimes what seems like a personal tragedy can become the beginning of something significant. She had not only preserved her family legacy but also found her true calling in helping others. The betrayal that could have broken her instead unveiled her inner strength. Emily now moved through the world with confidence she had never known before, making decisions based on her values rather than others' expectations. The quiet librarian had become a respected philanthropist and businesswoman, her grandmother's true heir in spirit as well as finances. As sunset painted the lake golden, Emily received a text from a childhood friend she had reconnected with during the renovation. He was a local history professor who had helped research her family's past, and their professional relationship had slowly blossomed into something more. Unlike Brad, he knew her before the inheritance and valued her for who she was, not what she owned. Their relationship had deepened over the years, built on shared interests and mutual respect rather than material considerations. Tonight he would join her by the lake, bringing a picnic basket and tales of his latest historical research. Emily had learned to trust again, but wisely. Her financial affairs remained separate from her romantic life, a boundary she maintained not from fear but from the wisdom hard experience had taught her. Emily smiled as she watched the light change on the water. Life had not gone according to plan, but perhaps it had gone exactly as it should. The inheritance that had almost destroyed her marriage had ultimately led her to her true self, stronger, wiser, and finally at peace with her family's complicated legacy. If you enjoyed this story about a woman who outwitted her greedy husband and preserved her inheritance, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.